Hey guys, welcome back to Clueless Gamers. I am Pete, and today I'll be reviewing Legends of Tomorrow, Season 2, Episode 3, Shogun. So again, repeating, sorry for people that are hearing this again. I'm doing reviews this week because I am sick, if you cannot tell. I'll be back with reaction videos next week, but with that out of the way, let's get into Legends of Tomorrow. Man, this is a fun episode. Again, Legends of Tomorrow is never a show for me that is always amazing. There are some great episodes, sure, but it's never a show that's like, damn, this is so good. No, there's plot holes, there's things that you forgive, and I definitely think that's just the case in here. So I would say main points of the episode are Steel, Vixen joins the team, Ray's suit destroyed, and Barry's message. So a lot of interesting things to get into. There are parts of this episode where are just like classic Legends of Tomorrow things, or they're becoming classic things, like Ray getting kidnapped, right? How many times, someone in the comments let me know below, so far in 19 episodes of the show, how many times has Ray been kidnapped at this point? At least 3 or 4. Like it's getting like one of those just like tropes of the show where it's just like, all right, Ray's getting kidnapped, or Ray's gonna fuck up, kind of like he did last week in the Nazi bar. Like, you know, he's always a problem for the team in that way. However, I will say when I get to a point in this episode, you know, in this review, that I actually did feel bad for Ray for the first time in a while. So I guess starting off with the points here, it's Steel. We kind of have at the top of this episode that, oh, you know, Dr. Heywood, he's in the med bay, he's still healing up, and, you know, maybe, I guess he's been, you know, cured of his hemophilia, and, you know, most importantly, he didn't die. And then, you know, we have Vixen being a true ninja, and, you know, she's, what, a 5th degree black belt, she has all this martial arts and weapons training, she's just going throughout the ship that she stowed away on the Wave Rider, and she's just taking them all out, like, one by one. And that was very cool to see. It was a moment that I assume people, when I go watch their reactions, I assume people probably didn't like, because I think a lot of people at this point don't like Vixen, because she's very, I guess she's off-putting in some ways, because she's very hardened. She's doesn't really take any shit. She has a code. I think it's also part of just that 1940s culture she was in, and not in the bad side of it, in just the side of it of they're different culturally. There's no fooling around here. There's a code of honor that, yeah, I think it's pretty well established that our merry band of legends do not have, given, you know, by how much especially she hates Mick at this point. Because she just sees him as a complete thug, as she calls him in this episode, a complete criminal, and she hates him. She has no respect for him. She pretty much has no respect for all of them, and it makes sense, because she's a true hero, and they're just a band of misfits. But when Steel comes in there, and he saves Mick, even though I don't think Vixen would have actually killed him, and grabs her, I was like, what the fuck is happening? Like, he's made of steel now? And then I thought, I don't know the character well, but I was like, isn't there a character called Citizen Steel? I know there's a character Steel that I always think of from, like, the DC animation with, like, the hammer. He was part of the Justice League, and I think he was in the Superman animated series and such. But that's a different character than Citizen Steel, which I don't know a lot about, but I'm like, I'm pretty sure that's a character. And I don't know if that's a take on it. They say Citizen Steel in this episode, or they're just gonna, you know, and they're just calling him Steel, or Steel as a separate character. You know, if you guys know that, you know, definitely fill me in down below. But that was pretty crazy. I don't have a problem with him getting powers, because, like, I'm kind of on both sides of it, because if he didn't have powers and he's just a historian, he's still useful, but in these action sequences, what is he going to do? He's going to stay on the Wave Rider? Like, you know, how much is he going to really do out there? He's not even like Mick, or, you know, when Captain Cole's on the team, have a weapon or something. Like, what is he going to do out in the field? And I thought last episode maybe there was a hint that, you know, he said he knows how to handle himself. Maybe he knew something around guns or a weapon and he would get that, or, you know, be able to equip that, but we just blew that out of the water now. Now that he's a full-blown superhero with superpowers that, you know, he's still learning to control and how to use them and how to access them, especially in times of distress, it seems. But yeah, he's pretty much invulnerable to anything at this point. So I think it's going to be interesting to see for the rest of the season, our villains here, which look like are going to shaping up to be Dark and Thawne, yeah, one's a martial artist and one's a speedster. Yeah, the speedster can affect him, but really, Dark without his magic powers, how is he going to fight someone who's made out of something 100 times stronger than steel? So that's going to be an interesting topic for the for the show to tackle, and an interesting problem that the villains are going to have to tackle going forward. Thawne would probably have some kind of advanced tech to combat it or something, but I want to see more of that. I did like, and understandable, akin to his character, how Heywood was so excited to get the powers, and he kind of acted a little macho in the village, and he was so ready to kind of just test them out, and so happy to get powers because he was protected and sheltered his whole life, and dealing with hemophilia is a horrible disease, and it's definitely doesn't lend itself to being a daredevil per se, or doing anything normal for the most part. Anything dangerous that he wants to do is being a hero. So I can understand him getting these powers and truly enjoying them. I did like throughout the episode the whole kind of Shogun, feudal Japan kind of vibe that we went back to in, I think, 1641. So that's something I'll touch on later in the review, but I really did enjoy that. The second point of the main point of the episode, is Vixen joins the team, right? So Vixen joins the team because she's a stowaway in the ship, but now it seems at the end of the episode that she's with them, right? She's in this shot where, she's sitting with all of them at the end, and she wants to catch, Rex Tyler's killer, which is Thawne, but they don't know who it is at this point. She thought it was the Legends, which is really interesting. That I thought at the end of last episode, when Rex was saying that the time travelers, he kept saying that he was struggling because he was bleeding to death. I thought he was just like, oh, go get the time travelers. They'll know what to do. They'll be able to help. Vixen took it in the sense that they were the ones that did it. So that was just a miscommunication, but that was really interesting. I think she'll be a asset to the team, I would say. We saw at the end of the episode when she gives Mick the ninja star that she throws into the sandwich. It seems like they could have, I don't know, maybe it's just me perceiving this, that they could have some kind of interesting chemistry. It doesn't necessarily have to be romantic. It's just that maybe they could become close friends because they hated each other so much, especially Vixen hating Mick so much and not respecting him at all. Maybe they can grow together. And I do like the dynamic they have off of each other because they're such complete opposites. So those always so far have been provided for great scenes here in these first two episodes, especially this episode, and I want to see more. Vixen's powers, as always, like our current Vixen, which we assume, she says it's a thing passed down through generations. There's kind of 5 amulets or so. So we assume it's maybe passed to family members or people close in her village or her tribe or, wherever, she comes from. I don't know necessarily. I haven't watched the CW Seeds Vixen. I do plan to at some point. But we're assuming, I guess it's safe to assume that our Vixen in current time is related to this Vixen or something. I mean, maybe not. I mean, maybe it's just the amulet got passed down and that's just how it is. But there is an assumption that I'm going to go on that, yeah, they are related. So I do like her set of powers. I like, with the animal always, just like it was on, the animated Justice League series. It's still great to see. It's still great to see that she's also, without the amulet, which we saw last episode, she's still a 5th degree black belt. And, she picked up a sword here. She's still a weapons expert. Like, she could still very much handle her own, and I can't wait to see more of her with the team, and I assume we're going to get back to the larger part of the JSA in future episodes. So the third point of the episode that I wanted to touch on, third main point, was Ray's suit's destroyed. So, as I said earlier, this was kind of the first time, especially in that scene that Ray had with Heywood in the field, where he's trying to teach Heywood to, destroy his suit because the Shogun has it now. With some kind of straw scarecrow or whatever. I did like that he had this moment where he's like, this is not just about you. And yes, there is compelling points to Dr. Heywood's story that we've talked about, but this is about Rey in this sense that he's destroying a suit that he spent time and billions of dollars, he said in this episode. And the biggest thing and the most emotional thing was he almost died, like he said, we saw at the end of Arrow season 3, when he was first shrinking. This is what makes him a hero. This is what Vixen's been ragging on him since they met last episode of, you're not really a hero, Dr. Palmer. What Sarah's told him in the first episode of the season, what he heard last season, that even in Arrow he heard, he's nothing more than a suit, right? And he's struggling with who he is at this point in time. And now he'll definitely struggle more because he doesn't have the suit. It was in this cool kind of shot. It was, blown up and the Shogun disintegrated because, of course, the Shogun, once Rey was kidnapped, then had to get the armor. And then I like the scene where Rey said, it's designed so an idiot can use it. And Mick goes, yeah, an idiot was already using it. So, there's fun moments like that. But now he's going to have to contend with life without the suit. And I am definitely interested to see where that's going to take him. It was a little bit, I would say, unbelievable in the sense that, all right, he puts on the samurai armor and he has a sword, but I don't know if he would have fought as well with it against the Shogun. I know the Shogun's a little awkward moving and doesn't really know the suit as much, but that seemed a little just, one of those kind of weird, not even plot hole, but kind of like forced things in Legends of Tomorrow that just exist, that you just, if it's not a huge major thing, you kind of just have to accept it. But I hope he does get his suit back because, Ray Palmer is the Atom. I don't want to see Ray Palmer, the space cadet or something with like a gun. I want to see Ray Palmer with the suit. So I'm hoping, I doubt they're going to reverse time, but there's a way he can make a new suit, a new and improved suit. Iron Man upgrades his suit all the time. Why couldn't Ray start from scratch and make a new one? If anything, the Wave Rider provides, it's got to be material, right? Or the ability to go places to get that material. So I don't think we've seen the conclusion in that story with Rey and his suit. But I understand the writers taking, I would say, a little bit of a risk of taking him out of the suit and trying to develop his character without the suit and try to say, hey, see, he's more important. He's more than a suit, which I thought he was already for his brain and, some of the emotional elements and supporting points he adds to the team, his relationship with Kendra aside from last season. But Rey isn't, he's a frustrating character for me, but he's not frustrating in the sense of like Wild Dog on Arrow, where it's like, man, like, stop not listening. Rey F's up because he tries to be too good. He tries to be better. He gets too emotional. He gets too high, like when Vandal Savage, basically goaded him into opening the prison cell last season. Like, he does make stupid decisions that are sometimes like, dude, like, that's unforgivable sometimes, or like, oh my god, that's so annoying. But maybe it's just because we've grown with Rey that, we feel more for him. So I can't wait to see more of his story going forward. And then I would say the fourth main point and the completely awesome moment that it is such a benefit for all these shows, even Supergirl now being in the CW universe, is we get these even little tiny crossovers. And I thought it was funny at the end we get this, special guest appearance, Grant Gustin. I'm like, it was just his voice that was made to sound older. But yes, it is still a guest appearance. So we get in the episode, the ship is damaged because kind of Rey and Dr. Heywood being idiots and trying to test his strength. Heywood hits, Palmer into the hatch, of course, opens up the door into the time stream. Heywood makes it worse because he doesn't know his own strength. He goes flying out the door, and Rey goes to get him, and, they have to close the hatch and such, and that's how they end up in feudal Japan. But this also prompted Jax and Stein to stay on the ship. Now, again, I understand two reasons. One, they're on the ship because they are the guys to fix it. Jax is the main mechanic. Stein is a genius. And they have good chemistry off each other. It makes sense that they would stay on the ship. It's also a case that to not have kind of an OP presence going on, you already made one of the kind of OP members in Dr. Palmer's suit, in Rey's suit, go over to the enemy of this episode, to the Shogun. Everyone else is still kind of martial arts fighters. Mick has his gun, and then you give the really powered person who's struggling with his power Steel the opportunity in this episode. So that's why, and you save effects money, keeping Firestorm on the ship, even though it's kind of cost some kind of a pretty penny on that effects money for Steel. Maybe not as much as Firestorm because the fire is alive and moving, but it definitely has to cost some kind of money. Putting that steel and that glimmering, look and reflection all over his body. But it does give the opportunity for Stein and Jax to stay on the ship and discover that, there's actually 36 compartments, and Rip only told me about 35. When that first came up in that scene, I was like, it's actually going to say that Jax is going to say that there's supposed to be 38 compartments, and Gideon always said there's 36, and for some reason, because of the show, they're manipulating time for some reason, so like parts of the ship are disappearing or things are changing, and I was like, oh shit, that's really bad. It just ended up going the opposite way, where there's actually one more compartment that they don't know about. They discover it, they make a funny lost joke. It's not really that well hidden by an easily tin panel that could be ripped off, but no pun intended. But they get into this time code lock somehow. I don't think it was really said. Did they know the password? Did they just guess? Did they hack it? They didn't really say. Was it fingerprint wise? They just kind of got in there, and it's a weapons vault, which is what I predicted it was before they walked in there. But what no one could see coming, and obviously I didn't, is it has like all these messages that I didn't see any Easter eggs when I went back and looked at it, but one of them is from Barry Allen from 2056, so 40 years in the future, warning Captain Hunter of something, that something's happening. He's already risked too many lives, and you can't tell the rest of the team or so. So there was something going on there, and of course, in CW fashion, I thought at the end of the episode they were going to tell us what it was, but nope, we don't have any idea what this message is, so there's not much more to speculate on this point. What I will ask is down below, again, if it's, as always, if it's been confirmed or any other things have been confirmed, I don't want to know, I don't want any spoilers, but if you have any theories, what Barry's message is about. Is it, kind of about the crossover event coming? Is it about, him finding out in 2056, it took him that long, that Thawne is back in time and he's the time traveler messing with it? Like, what is the message? What do you guys think the message is? Kind of give me your theories and your thoughts and predictions down below, because I would love to hear that. Other little points of the episode I would say is, yeah, there's kind of little nitpicks. Again, I guess it's just how Legends is these days, of like, how is someone like Mick, who he's a brawler and stuff like that, and he does have more training now, even though we don't mention it, he does have more training when he was Kronos last year, like hundreds of years of training, so I guess maybe that's the way to, answer my question of like, how can he really stand up against samurais and ninjas, because he really doesn't have the same technical skill as them. But, and I guess the same can be said for Rey in that, in the prison scene, when he kind of like whips the chain and like pulls the guy toward him. Like, yeah, all that stuff is pretty unrealistic in the sense that he has no training of anything whatsoever. Rey is pretty helpless for the most part outside the suit, beside, his brain, but fighting wise. But I guess those are just like the little things that we forgive on this show. So that was just a little nitpick of the episode. Just going to feudal Japan was a very cool setting. It was very, the cool costumes, that were historically accurate. They looked historically accurate for the most part, that we tied in a little bit of history, even though it was a little bit changed on some things about actual feudal Japan and that particular shogun. It still stays relatively similar, or it's a cool adaptation that a TV show can take. And I like when we could change the show, have an adaptation, but we still stay in somewhat of real history. So that's always a cool thing that I really appreciate. Really awesome action scenes in this episode, particularly from Sarah. I did see an Instagram photo or video like a couple weeks ago where she was doing fight training for this episode. She just said, she didn't say what the episode was about or anything. It was just like, oh, fight training for next episode. And I saw she had a sword. Oh, we saw that in this episode. And again, correct me if I'm wrong, it looked like a lot of the stunts that were being done in this episode, probably some of it stunt woman, but most of it looked Katie Lotz. It looked very much a lot of it like her, and she's definitely a badass in real life. You guys should go look her up if you don't know. She's like, she has some free running skills and some martial arts skills. She's actually an excellent dancer, freestyle dancer. So she's definitely very athletic in the sense that I think she would catch on with those stunts quickly, and I could believe her doing a lot of that stuff. And that awesome scene where she's finally fighting kind of like the second in command of the Shogun, and she has that hidden knife, and in a total assassin's way, you get that classic shot of the two swords clashing each other. The two people stop, and I'm like, oh, he's bleeding. Did, I not see it? How did she slice him? It looked like their two swords collided. She had a hidden knife below that, which was really cool and really akin to her character, and I did enjoy that. Vixen did, in this episode, gave a little bit of her backstory kind of on her village and protecting it, and she feels like there was more to protect to the world, but she feels like there's no one left protecting her village, which came full circle with her trying to protect this village. So I did like that. The little Dr. Heywood storyline with that, the Japanese woman and kind of a love interest is something we've seen even last season. It's somehow all of our legends are constantly finding love throughout the period, throughout time, and they have to face reality that they can never stay there. And even the people usually face reality that they know that they're leaving. So that was cool to see, especially, kind of the wackiness of how Ray and Dr. Heywood got there, that they literally, people seen them crash from the sky. Like, how is that not affecting history? How is not killing a Shogun who seems pretty influential if Dr. Heywood knows about him because he's in history books? How killing him, how does that not affect the timeline? Aren't they fucking up time more, even if he's a really bad person? Future tech was used here, even though they took it with them. Like, isn't it bad that they saw it? Like, so yeah, there's little questions that are never answered in Legends of Tomorrow episodes of like, how much are they screwing up time? But that was kind of my thoughts that were going around throughout the episode. I forget the woman's name. It was something with an M. It was like I don't know, Miko or something like that. And someone could correct me in the pronunciation below, or just how to say the name in general if I'm even in the ballpark. But the biggest Easter egg, I guess, of her storyline and of her father's storyline is they talk about the brother dying. It seemed like the Shogun forced him to commit suicide, and he has this sword, this armor, but particularly this sword that is like, fit for an emperor, they keep saying, and Rey uses it, and the woman later uses it, and then, Dr. Heywood gives it over to her at the end of the episode, and she, says she's worthy. And we cut to a scene where Rey says to the father, like, wait, what was your last name again? And he says Yamashiro, which at first I was like, wait a second, like, is that someone famous throughout Japanese history? And then I went, oh, that's who it is. It's, what do you call it? It's Masao from Arrow. It's him and Katana there. It's Tatsu. They're Yamashiro. So this must be I'm assuming their great ancestors, and this is how one of the great ancestors got the sword. I assume that's the same sword that Katana uses. And then it's also the part where women now, it's a woman who has passed down the sword. She's the protector of the village. It's now this transition from man to woman of that's the protector of the village. That's how Katana is the protector later on of certain things, and how she takes up the art, and it's passed down through her family. That's how I assume it comes from. It comes from there. So that was a very interesting Easter egg, and it was very cool to see the little music there at the end of the episode when they were leaving. And I'm just enjoying Captain Lance, which is funny to say. I'm enjoying Sarah as captain, and I can't wait to see more of the team story going forward. But overall, guys, that's kind of my thoughts here on Legends of Tomorrow, season 2 episode 3 Shogun. Let me know what you thought of the episode in the comments below. Did you like the episode? Did you not like the episode? Is there any Easter eggs I missed? What were your favorite moments of the episode? Do you have problems with Legends, or those kind of little things I touched on, or big things in your opinion with changing the timeline? Does that kind of ruin the show for you? Do you think there's a way to correct that? Do you kind of just forgive it and say, this show is just fun, who cares? Did you sympathize with Rey in this episode, and what do you think it's going to be for him going forward? Do you think he's going to kind of get a new suit, kind of like Iron Man does, or are they going to take him in a different direction, which I really don't want to see? Give me your thoughts on that. What do you think about Vixen joining the team, and do you think we're going to see the JSA next episode, or the rest of it coming soon? What are we going to find out here about Eobard? Is that what Barry's message was about? What do you think that was? And how do you think, what do you think about Dr. Heywood becoming Steel here in this episode? Is it different than, a Citizen Steel? Is it different than, something you were expecting? Do you like that there's another powered person on the team and that it fits with Dr. Hayward, or you wanted to just see him become, just stay in his story? And then pretty much any other moments and thoughts you had on the episode, please let me know them down below. Like the video, subscribe channel, share with your friends if you be so kind. And until next episode of Legends, guys, thanks for listening.